message of the Heures.
Yeah, copy that, Andre. Let's leave it on for these high speed on that.
Okay, good job. Cool. Thank you guys.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Le Mans 24-hour race. The Circuit de la Sarthe is underway, the 83rd edition of the world's most famous race. And just behind me, you can see cars flashing by. The race is on, but we're not going to talk about it, and we're not going to show you any pictures. For that, you have to go down to the app and download our app, where you will be able to follow every single turn of this famous race with English commentary and live timing as well. Doesn't cost very much, and it is the place to get everything you need on track. We, however, are here for all the off-track action, for the behind the scenes, for the colour, and if you need some education on the race, then hopefully myself and my guest Dave Spitzer, my expert technical man, will be able to help them. That's our idea, right?
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. As we said, we've had a lot of backstage access to a lot of things, and that's what we're here for, 24 hours inside. So we'll be inside cars, we'll be inside garages, we'll be given the inside story throughout these 24 hours together.
Absolutely. So we are live and direct for you, and then this program gets repeated for a couple of hours, and then we'll come back a bit later on. We do give you a little highlights package every so often of the racing, but we're going to talk about one of the big stories off track this weekend. In fact, the biggest story is the return of Ford to Le Mans for 2016. We've seen the wonderful clip that they've produced, the Ford GT40 morphing into the Ford GT, which will run next year. And now we have a chance to talk to Bill Ford, who is the representative of this wonderful project.
Yes, so my uncle Henry Ford II came here to race in Le Mans in the 60s. And we were here in 1964 and 65. And we didn't win. In fact, we didn't finish in 64. But then in 66, we won the race, and then we won for 4 years in a row. And it was a lot of fun to do. He loved it because he was in a great rivalry with Ferrari. And it made for a tremendous rivalry between Enzo Ferrari and Johnny Agnelli and my uncle Henry Ford II. They all loved to race. You know, Ford Motor Company was born on a racetrack with Henry Ford, and so racing's been part of us really since we began, well over 100 years ago. But I can remember in 1966 when I was a 9-year-old boy watching on television as Ford finished 1, 2, 3 at Le Mans. And I thought it was about the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And I knew right then that I had to be part of Ford Motor Company for the rest of my life. Next year we're returning to Le Mans. It's our 50th anniversary of our 1966 win. And we're coming with a car that we think is going to be a great car for Le Mans. Very excited. Everyone in the Ford family is excited. And it's going to be, 2016 is going to be a wonderful time for us. Of course we'll try and win, but we're just very happy to be here.
Very happy for them to be coming to Le Mans. Really exciting news. How significant, Dave, is this for the American audience, and how important is it for Ford to come back?
I think it's very significant, Ben. You know, everybody in the United States are also students of history. When they announced the Ford GT at the Detroit Auto Show, they made quite a splash. The car is absolutely spectacular. Clearly, they're going for the very highest level in the marketplace with really a supercar. And so I think there's a lot of people that are waiting to see the car. We're excited to know that it will race for the first time in my hometown in Daytona at the Rolex 24 in January. Fans will be able to come see it for the January test days, the Roar before the 24 hours, the first weekend in January, and then at the end of January on the track against the Corvettes, against hopefully the Vipers, if my friend Bill Riley will keep the Viper program going. But certainly I think Ford versus Chevrolet, when I lived in Detroit for 14 years, it was a rivalry, not in a negative sense, but in a very positive sense. Both companies respect each other. Both companies love that the other one is down the road, and they love to fight. And so here's another chance to fight. And so I think it's exciting for everybody. It's exciting for the press. It's exciting for the fans. And it'll bring a lot of emotion to racing throughout the United States and really around the world.
And much like the cars that we are seeing enter Le Mans the last couple of years, really technologically advanced, and we're looking forward to coming back for 2016 and for Dave to sniff around and get all those really details out of the car. Now, you're looking at pictures that happened a couple of hours earlier of the start of the race. All the teams lined up alongside the cars in the traditional Le Mans start, all basically paying tribute and honour to that wonderful trophy that's being paraded down the grid, down towards the start line, where the Grand Marshal Tom Christensen was waiting for them. And just a wonderful, wonderful sight. You've been there. You've been standing on that grid, Dave, as part of the Cadillac program. What's the feeling from a team's perspective?
Well, I could tell you, in my case, it was a whole lot of anxiety, right? But it's wonderful. Look at the fans in the stands. I mean, the crowd here this week has been fantastic, and there's quite a lot of emotion. There's quite a strong sense of pride. And when you're on a team, inside of a team, there's a strong sense of team, and so you're really proud to be there with those people and to fight hard for those people throughout the night and to know that each other relies on each other. So there's a very strong feeling of team, I think, for me, that really rose up. So yes, there's company, yes, there's brand, but there's also those 20 or 25 people that you're really close to. You've been through the late nights, you've been through the bloody knuckles, you know that you're going to rely on each other for the next 24 hours, looking for food, looking for enough to drink, looking for a way to survive. And so it's a really strong emotion there on the grid.
Just a quick shot there of Jean Todt, who is here. He was in Moscow last weekend supporting the Formula E race there and the World Touring Car Championship the next day. And actually, just a little demonstration of just how heavy that trophy is. We've seen drivers at the end of the 24 hours struggle to lift it up because it is just so heavy. And the two stewards there also struggling. Gave him quite a way to walk that trophy. They could have parked it beside the carpet, couldn't they?
It's amazing. I mean, it's such an epic race and such an epic accomplishment. I think anybody is moved by the opportunity or the thought that they might be able to touch that trophy, to hold that trophy on behalf of their brand, on behalf of their family. And I work with young people now in the university setting, and I try to explain to our students, some accomplishments you'll live for the rest of your life. And certainly to be on that grid, all these crew members will remember that opportunity for the rest of their life. For the fans, they'll remember that for the rest of their life. It's really an epic moment.
And you can see that the celebrations and the anticipation continues to build. You know, the smells and the audio of the commentary getting louder here in France, and then the planes, the jet fighters flying low over the start and finishing line with the tricolor tailing. It is incredibly atmospheric. And even though we aren't doing a full live broadcast this year, the heart rate still rises just because the race is beginning.
It does. And just like at Indianapolis, at the Indianapolis 500, there are familiar voices on the PA. You know the voices, you know what they're going to say almost. Same thing here at Le Mans. It's French. Yes, I speak French, but not well enough to understand over the PA. But still that sound and those voices and the things that are being said. And like you said, as the emotion rises, it's all part of the same sort of rhythm as you get close to the beginning of the race. And it's very, very special. I'm glad everybody on paying attention to us can be part of it through our eyes. And we wish we could have everybody here with us.
It makes the event what it is. The start, the anticipation, and also the Parade de Grand Pilote, which happened on Friday. Our previous program showed you highlights of the event in town, but we were also able to catch up with some of the drivers. Here's a little chat with Haley and Mark Webber.
So with just a few hours until the race begins, how are you feeling?
Yeah, feeling good. We're ready to get into it. Obviously it's a long week, a lot of talking, a lot of standing around, and tomorrow, hopefully Saturday and Sunday, will be a lot of driving and not much talking and action on track.
So from now until the actual beginning of the race, what will you be up to?
We'll go to the driver parade now. We'll get that done, and then yeah, get some meal time in, bit of food, maybe a massage, and then a long sleep tonight. So
what are the principal difficulties that you'll face as a driver going into the 24 hours of Le Mans?
Well, if you're well prepared, obviously you know what the race it should entail in terms of strategy. Obviously for yourselves, we've got a bit of weather around on Sunday maybe, so we have to deal with that when it comes. But in terms of our jobs, yeah, it's concentrate, drive as quick as possible, watch the traffic obviously, and bring the car back to the pits as you've got it given to you basically if you can. So yeah, it's relatively straightforward. Obviously, not that easy to do, but that's our job remit is to driving the limit and look after the car.
So what does 24 hours of Le Mans mean for you?
Well, it's a very special race. Obviously, it's the most famous endurance race in the world. It's particularly special for Porsche. They've got the most wins here in the past, 16 victories. We would like to try and add to that if we can in the near future. Maybe start in the weekend. Personally, for myself, obviously, it'd be a great race for me to put on my CV to manage to win it, especially with Porsche.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, and good luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
Mark Webber, always a fantastic person to speak with ahead of a 24-hour race. So relaxed, in fact, he hasn't cut his hair this year. Really enjoying the event. Last year, of course, was his return. A lot of attention on Mark Webber after a 15, 20-year gap where the car went flying in the air, and he said he would never come back. He came back last year, so there was a lot of attention on him. This year, he's just really, really enjoying the whole atmosphere. From Mark Webber in the Porsche team, fighting at the front of the field, to the man who won the Endurance World Championship last year, but sadly the Toyotas don't look like they've got the pace to challenge Audi and Porsche here at Le Mans. That's the feeling at the moment. Let's see what Sebastian Buemi had to say.
Just a few hours to go until the beginning of the race. How are you feeling?
Oh, quite good. We are here at the Drivers' Parade in the center of Le Mans, so trying to enjoy this moment. Obviously the pressure builds up a little bit, so we just had a big meeting with the team on the strategy for tomorrow's race, and we will enjoy now spending time with the fans, the spectators, you know, coming to the parade. It's always a very good moment out of this week of Le Mans.
So what do you think would be the secret to win such a prestigious event as 24 Hours of Le Mans?
Well, I think you need to be quick and not crash. Clearly that's easiest thing, but in our case we don't seem to really have the speed to fight at the front right now, so the objective will be to make sure we don't do any mistakes and don't bring the car into the garage. Just make sure we just do fuel and tires all race long, and that will be our best opportunity to win the race.
Yeah, interesting that. It's very much going to be work for the engineers to try and get Toyota on the top step.
Yeah, you know, they'll do the very best that they can, and I think the drivers have said it. You know, you can only go so far on a tank of fuel. You can only go as fast as the car will allow you. It's interesting, you know, that he talked about the strategy meeting, and really the drivers and the engineers all get together. And just like in American football or in any professional sport, you evaluate your strengths and your weaknesses, and you come up with a strategy to accentuate your strengths and to overcome your weaknesses. So in Toyota's case, there's really no point in trying to stand on their head and try to do a lap with Audi and Porsche. What they can do is recognize that the history has shown these hybrids can be fragile. We've had problems in the past. All of the cars have had problems. And so if they can take an approach where they're going to make a certain series of decisions that give them a more absolute chance to run just fuel and tires the whole race, they have a chance to win, and I'm sure that's their focus.
Dave, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to keep with you over the next 24 hours and hopefully get some insight into the strategy and behind the scenes in the teams. We're going to take a quick break now, and we'll have a guest from Dempsey Racing after this.
Faced with unpredictable weather, how do you keep danger at bay? Today, Michelin creates Cross Climate, the first tyre able to cope with unexpected weather thanks to its revolutionary performances. With the Michelin Cross Climate innovation, arm yourself for every weather condition. Michelin, a better way forward.
Why this watch? This watch has seen machines perform poetry, and memories come rushing back. It has witnessed man test his will
272 miles an hour.
And the laws of physics. It has decided fates by thousandths of a second and seen a champion knighted. It doesn't just tell time, it tells history.
Welcome back to the studio here for the inside program for the 24 hours, the backstage look at everything that's happening here on circuit. And we have with us Jim from the team Dempsey Proton team. Now, Proton is a German team, right? But yeah, you guys are representing the American arm. How does that work as a engagement?
Right.
Arrangement, even.
Well, this is our third year competing with the Proton team. And 3 years ago, Patrick decided that he needed to change up how he's doing competition and started teaming up with both Porsche as a partner and then the Proton team for Le Mans. So it's not new to us. What's the big difference is this is the first year we're competing in the full World Endurance Championship schedule. So previously we would compete in the US and then show up here as a one-off at Le Mans. The big advantage I think we have moving forward this year is it's our third race in this Porsche RSR instead of a different Porsche in the US. And it's also the third race with this team. So far this week, it's been a very good week for us. And we're going to the race. You're never totally confident because it's Le Mans, but we have a little more of a swagger than maybe we had before.
Has the attitude towards the racing changed a lot? Because obviously, when Patrick started racing, he was an actor that just wanted to do a bit of racing. Now he seems to come to me anyway as a professional race driver.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. The great people at Porsche have been such a wonderful partner to work with. And honestly, they provided Patrick an opportunity this year to be a full-time professional racer. Now, that doesn't mean he's leaving Hollywood, but it does mean that he's left his weekly role in Hollywood. He's now looking to produce more shows. He's got 5 shows currently in development. But he wants to be a producer and an actor, and when he controls his own show, that gives him the option to set his own time. So he'll be able to schedule his shooting and his shows around racing. So racing is now absolutely his priority, and thanks to Porsche for making that happen.
I think it's just amazing. You know, the history of sports car racing is filled with legendary actors. You know, we had Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, of course, and it's such an honor to be around Patrick. He's such a wonderful guy, and he's shown from the very beginning he's very, very serious about his racing. So it's wonderful as we see him make these decisions. Of course, he's got a lot of freedom in his life, and he chooses to come sports car racing. He chooses to dedicate himself to this task. It shows the passion, and I think the fans respond with his warmth, but his enthusiasm and everything else. So what an honor to have a guy like that as we're going through this phase of sports car racing in our lives.
And funny you should mention Steve McQueen, because we do have a little feature on the legend of Le Mans, of course, filmed Le Mans the film here, but also was very passionate about his motorsport as well. Here's a little feature on him.
La loi, vous vous souvenez? Il est là le redresseur de tort, le défenseur de la veuve et de l'orphelin. Piste, il tient déjà compte de la dévaluation. Dans l'enceinte du circuit, la Franck Bollitt est en place. Sur la piste, le drapeau tricolore a été confié à Bernard. C'est parti, une galopade, sauf pour Jackie X qui prend son temps, c'est son droit, et un départ impressionnant des Porsche au premier plan.
Wonderful pictures from a yesteryear gone by with Steve McQueen competing at Le Mans as a film, but he wasn't actually able to compete as a race car driver due to various safety concerns, Dave.
Yes, you know, racing is a passion, but of course we all know it's dangerous, particularly back in the 60s it was very dangerous, and as we understand it, Steve was unable to race here even though he wanted to as a professional because of his contracts in Hollywood. But a quick question for Jim, how does Patrick address that subject with the people that are around him that care so much about his future?
Well, in the past, when he was a full-time actor with contracts to ABC television in the US, they had limits as to what kind of car he could drive. For example, it always had to have a roof on it. He's had many opportunities to drive open prototypes, but the insurance would not allow that. Now that he's no longer employee of ABC, we were actually talking to our other partner, Tag Heuer Watches, last night, and they were offering him an opportunity to potentially drive a Formula E car, and all of a sudden his eyes lighted up and he says, hey, I might be able to drive a car like that now. So sorry, his people in Hollywood, we haven't made any of those agreements yet, but he's definitely now more open than he was previously. But as a guy who makes his living somewhat on his appearance as well as his ability, safety and the right equipment, he always makes sure he has the latest Sparco driving suits. Bell Helmets has been a great partner for him too, just making sure he's got the best equipment he can.
On the subject of safety, Dave Spitzer here has been digging around the garages behind the scenes, and he's found a little subject on the car safety and what they can do to maximize the safety of the machine and keep the driver safe.
In racing, we're all passionate about the speed. We know there's danger, but we all feel so strongly about the safety of the driver. So many people are aware of the Heures device. The driver's head, in an impact, can have the tendency to try to go forward. And there are some cords attached to his helmet to help prevent the head from going forward. However, it's been learned that sometimes a side impact, where the head snaps sideways, can be very dangerous for the driver. Let's have a look at how that is prevented, that movement is prevented in a modern LMP2 car. It begins with this head surround, very similar to what we see in Indy cars or Formula One. This is Kevlar material filled with a very special foam that's an energy-absorbing foam. But what about this side? The driver needs to be able to get in and out of a sports car quickly. We have 3 drivers. We're going to make a lot of driver changes. The solution? This is the rest of the driver head support in a modern LMP2 car. The same Kevlar shell, the same foam, attached to a very strong carbon fiber door with latches that are strong enough to resist the force in the event that the driver's head comes against that foam and needs that support to keep him in place.
Hello. That was nice and surprising. So, very interesting. There's always progress on safety from the 70s all the way up to now, and there will be more and more safety concerned as we go forward. In terms of the circuit, the Porsche curves have been one place where we've really changed. And what are the drivers saying about the changes there? I think as a GT driver, you can take a lot more risk now.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the first thing Patrick noticed when we got here for the test 2 weeks ago, was just the Porsche curves are still intimidating, but there's certainly a little more margin for error than there was in the past. And as a previously here, not as a full-time racer, it was very intimidating. So I think he's made most of his time this week. The improvement he's made has been almost all in the Porsche curves. I know he's a lot more confident there than he has been the previous years.
So do you feel that you've made a step up in terms of pace over previous years then?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially last night, he finally found his rhythm, or Thursday night, and his lap times were not only very competitive, multiple seconds faster than last year, but also very consistent. And honestly, in this race, you need both speed and consistency. So it was just great to see that back again.
And now all drivers do a track walk. They wander around the circuit to have a look at the curbs and have a look at how the circuit may be able to be used and maximized. And in fact, Patrick Dempsey was over at the Porsche curves, and we had a camera there.
My name is Patrick Dempsey. This is my 4th time at Le Mans. I'm with Dempsey Proton Racing in the number 77 RSR. Hi, we're here at the Porsche Curves. First got its name in 1972. The exact history is not for sure, but it was named after Porsche because of the success they've had here at Le Mans. It's a very high-speed right, left, right combination where a lot of time can be made up on your lap time here, and you have to be very, very careful. The risk-reward factor is very high, but this is one of the critical places on the track and one of my favorite corners of all time. One of the other challenging aspects of the Porsche Curves is dealing with the LMP1 program. And the cars that come through here, they're so quiet. They're like phantoms in the night that come by you. And it's very important to hold your line and to work with them. They can pass you anywhere at any point during the Porsche Curves, and it's always quite challenging and nerve-wracking. Yeah, please join us for the race, June 13th and 14th, and you can look at us on social media, which is LM24.
Thank you very much, Patrick Dempsey, for reminding me to tell you about our social media channels. We've got 24 Hours of Le Mans on Twitter, and there's a French version as well if you find yourself watching this and actually want to follow a French Twitter feed. There's plenty of others around. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and all of the other social media channels. And potentially this evening, if you fancy it, we can talk to Dave and I if we run out of guests. But for the moment, we have Jim here. Just one last question, Jim. How much sleep are you going to get tonight?
Well, I have a different role here this year. The last 2 years, previously, I've been out on the box. They're kind of the voice in the head of all the drivers. This year, my focus, I'm actually kind of the general manager for Dempsey Racing, so I'm kind of running all his motorsports operations, and we've let the Proton guys take care of that. A new engineer this year whose English is very good. So I won't get much sleep, but I'm actually doing more entertaining this year and teaching guests about Le Mans, our partners, than actually being at the box. So it's a new role. It's a good role, but I probably won't get much more sleep than I did in the box.
And Dave, in terms of engineers and mechanics, do they work in shifts, or is it simply, right, you start now and you'll finish at the end of the race?
I think it'd be hard for me to answer on behalf of all the teams. Certainly when I was involved, it was 24 hours. And you brought food throughout the night, you brought drinks throughout the night, and you really, if everything was going well, you were on point throughout 24 hours. Or in fact, because the race starts so long in the afternoon, it's more like about 30 hours, and it's really tough. We used to say Daytona was easier. The Rolex 24 started at that time around 1 p.m., and so that made it a little bit easier to get started, so on Sunday it wasn't so late. But to answer your question, I'm sure it depends, but for many teams and many of the key roles, it'll be full on throughout the 24 hours.
Well, thank you very much for both of your insights in this Inside 24 program. Your access to everything that's behind the scenes here at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We're going to be going off to the campsites a little bit later, up to the concert area, the campsites and the fairground at the back behind us. Everything that's not on track. But if you want to follow the race, then you have to download our app. It's free to download. You'll get live timing and scoring. There's also video applications parts, so you can see little highlights. And if you want the whole streaming thing with the tones of a similar voice to mine, my father, doing the commentary, then you can pay just €10 and have the complete 24 hours at your disposal on your phone, on your tablet, or even on your computer. We will be back in a couple of hours to give you a bit more insight behind the scenes. Until then, thanks for joining us.
The 24 Hours of Le Mans mobile app. Total immersion in the heart of the world's greatest endurance race. All the teams and drivers, the timing, the classification, and countless videos on demand. With the app's live option, you don't miss a thing. You not only get streaming TV wherever you are, but also the choice of onboard cameras. Be among the connected crowd. Download the 24 Hours of Le Mans app today.
Defense is off, you know, yeah?
Yeah, copy that. I'm going to leave it on for these high speed on that.
Okay, good job. Cool. Thank you guys.
The 24 Hours of Le Mans, as you've never seen it. 24 Hours Inside is the event channel. Travel to the heart of the world's greatest endurance race. Go backstage and discover the stories that make the legend. Meet the actors and the fans. 24 Hours Inside, because the event is also all around the track. On your tablet, smartphone or PC.